guys like tequila? Because I'm about to take a shot.
Shot.
Tequila tastes like fucking piss shit when you're drinking it just by itself.
That's what you...
Okay.
Usually a mixing drink.
Happy JoJo June, everybody. To celebrate the occasion, we have a special guest, Meti, not the bad guy. Say hi to the viewers. Meti.
Hello, I'm a big loser who spent too much time learning about a Japanese comic book.
Sick, us too. So, we both are big fans of JoJo and Persona.
Yeah.
And something, I see this brought up all the damn time, and I kind of understand why, but I think people take it to an extreme, is drawing comparisons between JoJo and Persona. Do you see that a lot as well?
I've seen it specifically around the time Persona 5 was being released, because that was around the time Part 4 was airing anime-wise, and everyone was starting to like put things together like, what the? Whoa, this is kind of like this, and this is kind of like this. But I think the Part 4 comparison has always been around.
Yeah, like, it definitely started with Part 4, because Part 4 and Persona 4 are very similar stories.
Yes.
They're both, like, small town, like, a serial killer is the main antagonist. We're solving this mystery, and we've got our thought form, like, second entity things we fight with.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. After people make that initial comparison, people go through leaps and bounds to try to make the rest of the puzzle fit.
Right, and that's what I take issue with, is, like, I'll see people try to put together pieces of, like, why Part 3 and Persona 3 are the same thing, when those stories could not be farther apart
Oh my
from
god,
each
yeah,
other.
it's the word. I've seen people say like, Nyx is immortal, Dio's immortal, same villain, same fucking villain.
Same stand
Like-
type.
Like, oh man, they go through the Arcana, and all the enemies are, like, based on the Arcana. Except in Part 3 of JoJo, they do it in, like, the most fucked weird order ever. The Fool, I think, is the last Arcana stand user that, like,
Shows up right before the Egyptian god arc. Let's not forget that there were no Egyptian...
Yeah, I remember when they beat all the shadows. They beat, what's the last one? Hangman? And then the Egyptian god shadows popped up.
Obelisk.
Yes. Fucking raw.
Then people have lately started to, like, try to force this comparison with Part 5 and Persona 5. And, like, the most basic shit I see is, like, well, it's both about criminals.
Both about
same story.
boys doing crime, even though half of the cast is female, and there's only one girl in Part 5. Technically 3, but one girl who appears for more than 3 panels.
I've also seen people try to go through the Herculean stretch of Persona 2 and Part 2. Both have Nazis in it. And, like, ancient Aztec-based themes. Yeah,
like with Persona 2 and weren't they called Mayans? Is that what... the one issue with no dialogue is I think someone says something and I keep it in my head. The ancient aliens that What's-Her-Face was talking about, she called them the Mayans, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where people get that, well, you see, the Pillar Men are Aztec, even though they come from Pangea and don't really have a specific region that they live in. And the only Aztec of them was Santana, but whatever. And then the Nazi comparison is just stretching it as far as you can possibly go, but not as nearly as much as fucking the people who do Part 1 and Persona 1.
I want to hear this one.
That takes universe brain levels of thinking to try to put those two and draw one comparison.
Well, you see, the one comparison is no one cares about the two.
Yeah. You know what? You're right.
Well, you see, the boy with the earring, his true persona is Ra, and Ra is the god of the sun, and Jonathan uses Haman, and that is the power of the sun. So they're obviously the same character.
Someone called game theory.
But yeah, just like the idea of, I get the fun of it, because it all starts with Persona 4, and that's a fun comparison, even though like the ends of Persona 4 is very different than the end of Part 4, and like the characters are very different, and there's not really a comparison that can be really made besides the surface level experience, like fun that is had with, oh, these are kind of similar. But the same people who also make those statements are the ones who then later go on and say shit like stands and personas are the same thing. God, I hate that comparison.
I had somebody ask me, like, I think this was in chat, or it was like a Twitter notification, or something, but it was like, do you think Persona users could have stands? And I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, could they? I don't know.
Well, I mean, with a Persona, I guess, that, like, the difference is, like, even, some people have even gone out of their way to say that Persona stole stands, because one is older than the other. Especially, like, the ones who get it from out of their control, like maybe characters like natural stand users, like the ones from, or natural Persona users, like the ones in 2 and 1. Maybe that's kind of theoretically their stand, even though it's not at all. But the ones in like 4, they could definitely get stands, because that wasn't really, because the difference in power is like immense, especially you, or Persona 4 protagonist guy, whatever name we want to call him. Use the canon one, because it appeared in Dancing All Night.
Yeah, you know what amazes me is that there are people to this day that insist on calling him Soji.
I think Soji has fallen to the wayside. It's Minato that's sticking around despite being disproven, along with Akira.
I'm a firm believer in Minato and Akira. Sorry.
I can kind of see where the Minato people are coming from, because we have another character named Makoto, and it's easier to say in a hypothetical situation where we got a Persona Q2, where Makoto and Makoto would be on the same screen. It'd be easier to say Makoto and Minato are on the same screen.
With Akira, I just liked it because it was kind of a callback to Persona 2, and I'm a Persona 2 fanboy, even though I haven't
Wait,
finished.
what?
Yeah, Akira Kirisu, his last name, is only one lettered. It's a barely difference in actual kanji to June, and they're both Joker. The thing that I always got upset about is mainly the statement that Personas stole the idea of stands, which couldn't be further from the truth, and we know this officially by the interview between Araki and Kaneko, where Kaneko doesn't even know fucking anything about Araki stuff. Like, he's like, oh yes, you came up with Personas because of xenophobia. Almost literally. Araki went to Egypt and thought that the Egyptians were really shady, and then he came up with the idea of people with magic powers coming to get him.
What? I've never heard this. That's such an incredible story.
Oh my god, it's great, because he went to Egypt for a tourism, because Araki's the type of person who goes out and scouts things, and he said, like, the entire time he was around Egyptians, they all looked really suspicious and thought that...
Right, so he was afraid they were gonna summon a ghost and shoot fireballs at him. Yeah, that's what he was afraid
That's how
of.
Araki came up with stands, and he then later less xenophobified it by saying he also wanted to make superpowers more interesting. Where Kaneko was like, we came up with the idea of Personas because we thought of guardian demons. And so we decided, like, and we're already working on this philosophy stuff. And so we combined the two together and we made the guardian demon Personas. So they come from two drastically different areas.
Yeah, like, stands have almost nothing to do with, I guess, the psychology of the person. On rare occasions they do. But generally it's kind of just, like, it's more an ability, and it's less
based off of the character's personality. I mean, it is based on their personality. Like, there are some that are just like fucking wild.
The hot personality of those two rats.
Well, those were. I mean, if you really want to analyze it, fucking Rat the Stand is just the most.
It's something disgusting for a disgusting rat.
It breaks down food into a more easily consumable thing. It has no other purpose than just to melt something down so it's more easily consumable, so it plays into their most basic nature. And also, rats are just like the most durable fucking animal in the world. The guardian demons versus stands in general are just two concepts that are similar but drastically from different places. And
like, the only thing they really have in common is that they're both, like, generally humanoid figures that, like, fight alongside.
Yeah, and, like, even in game, I guess in the anime it was shown that they function relatively similar, like, specifically Persona 4's anime, where if the persona gets hurt, then the persona user gets hurt. And that's not really a thing I remember in the games too much.
I think that's just,
in Arena, what happens is, like, if somebody hits your stand after enough attacks, they will go away for a while. but it doesn't harm the user.
So yeah, I guess in the more canon arena, the anime, it doesn't have the same effect. Do you lose health when it gets hit?
I don't believe you do. You have like these cards, and every time the persona takes a hit, a card goes away. When all the cards are gone, you can't use the persona.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess it is different. They can act as a shield versus stands, which don't use stands as shields, please. Yeah. So I guess that's where a lot of that's my main issue, is just when people try to project their ideas out there, like, oh, these are kind of similar, so it must have been ripping one of them must have been ripping each other off, and not two similar ideas can exist in the nether by themselves and come to fruition.
Yeah, like, I find it interesting. This is just something I've noticed, but I find that a lot of like Persona and SNT fans are also generally end up being fans of JoJo, just through some weird correlation. I don't know why that is.
Well, I mean, JoJo is just such a massive influence on the entire world. I mean, and I won't even like I should bring it up, the fact that like SMT has referenced JoJo in the past. Like, yeah, it does exist there, specifically Q and Persona Q, when Margaret has all the P4 cast strike literal JoJo poses, like all of the main
or
JoJo's.
in Strange Journey, where bites the dust as a skill that inflicts the bomb status.
Yeah, so just those like the little winks and nods, because it's just such a colossal icon for culture in Japan that it's hard to escape. Like, Kaneko may never have worked with Araki or knew his work, but he did recognize that Araki used to like have fashion models come and pose for him, and that's like, oh, so that's where the JoJo poses come from. So like,
yeah, it's one of those things where it just kind of floats about through the ether of the culture, and whether you realize it or not, like, JoJo has something to do with it.
Yeah, it just gets its claws in there somewhere. It's just difference in like the level of detail that one person goes into versus another, and they just come from drastically different places, and there's barely any correlation besides Persona 4 and Part 4.
And even then, that's like the best example of the two parts matching up. It's like, I don't like when people try to play that game of Part 4 kind of matches and like Persona 4. Now let's try to match the whole rest of them, because you're just making a fucking fool out of yourselves. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. It's just, and like you can only match it to a certain degree too. It's just, I wouldn't put it past the fact that there might have been some influence later on. Definitely not at the beginning. Definitely not with Persona 1 and 2. And Persona 3 through 4 or 3 through 5, they would just build off of what the legacy had left before them. Where Personas don't just come out in Persona 3 because of stands. They come from Personas in the last two games. Personas and stands not even remotely related. Maybe later in spin-offs.